So what do you do when you name your movie The Mummy, but you don't want to associate it with the very successful, famous franchise called The Mummy with Brandon Fraser? Very easy. Just stick the director's name on it and pretend like nobody's going to know the difference. So before we get to the review, I just want to say that I've noticed a really interesting pattern that when I go to the movies and I actually get a free movie poster handed out to me, it turns out that the movie is not good. So it happened with Scream 7, which is right there, and I framed it and put it up because I wanted at least one poster in my room. That might not be the poster that I want, and I did enjoy the film, but you have to admit Scream 7 was really bad. The other movie, which I haven't bothered to frame, and you'll understand why when you see the poster, is The Bride, because clearly it's one of the worst films out of the year so far. And then this week, I received a poster for The Mummy, which, as I'm about to discuss, it was not a great film. So I think is needless to say that if I go to the movies this week and they're handing out free posters, I should just go home because it's a good indication that the movie is just not going to be any good. All right, so Lee Cronin's The Mummy. Why is it called The Mummy, to be honest? It's so confusing that a studio would want to call it The Mummy when there's clearly a huge franchise already called The Mummy, and they already announced that a new one is coming out next year. So why do that exactly? So upon looking this up online, Blumhouse is really trying to make a niche in their horror movies about reimagining or recreating or remaking really famous classic monster horror films. They did it with The Invisible Man, with, Wolfman not long ago, and now with The Mummy. But obviously, when you call it The Mummy, audiences are going to assume that it has to do with the Brendan Fraser films. And what I don't like about them doing that is that, number one, I kind of find it insulting, to be honest, to Universal and to those movies and that franchise, because you're using their name. Just because you stuck the name Lee Cronin on top of the title to make it more distinct and individual to those films, nobody knows who the hell Lee Cronin is. And I'm a horror fan, and when the title came out for this film, I had to Google it. Who's Lee Cronin? And then I saw that is the director of Evil Dead Rise, which I loved that film, very successful within the horror community. But honestly, general audiences, they don't know who Lee Cronin is. Again, neither did I, so I had to Google it. I don't want to say anything negative about Lee Cronin. He's a great director, but does he deserve his name to be put up on top of a film the way Wes Craven or John Carpenter had their name on titles? No, to be honest, not yet. I love what he did in Evil Dead Rise, but he is not at the level yet to have his name there. So again, upon Googling and researching, he didn't want his name there. They kind of forced him to do that because they needed to make the title different and separate from the Mummy franchise. So again, I just find it a little bit disrespectful to the actual franchise and to Universal to use their name. Especially now that I've seen the film, it's even more insulting because there's not really a mummy in the film. Not in the usual, ordinary way that we have come to know the Mummy movies. So if you've seen this film, you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't seen it, don't expect there to be a villain of a mummy wrapped or in a way coming out of like a tomb or a sarcophagus, because that's not what this movie really is about. It's a little bit different. So with that said, let's get into the review for Lee Cronin's The Mummy. All right, so in the film, there's a little girl named Katie living in Cairo with her family, and she gets kidnapped. And we don't know what happens to her. She disappears. The family has to move on. And then we jumped 8 years later in life, and we see that the family now is living in New Mexico with their son, now a little bit more grown up. I believe he's 15, and they have a new daughter. And they get news that they found Katie and she is alive. But They found her inside of a sarcophagus, which is really weird and strange. And when the family goes to get her in Cairo, she is, looking horrible. Her skin is disgusting and she's like hardened and she's coming apart. Her eyes are all messed up. I mean, she is looking disfigured in the most disgusting, horrific way. They want you to feel grossed out when you see her. Her nails are black and like long and like circled up. Like it's just really gross. And it makes you wonder, what the hell happened to Katie? And that's the marketing of the film. What happened to her, right? So we want to know. Okay, so let's talk about the things that I did not like. The main issue that I had with the film is that it felt like it was two films in one. So one part of the film is a mystery thriller about trying to get to the bottom and unfolding the mystery of who kidnapped Katie and what happened to her. How did she end up in a sarcophagus? And the other story of this film is an exorcist film about a girl being possessed. So the question is there a world where both of these stories could live happily ever after in one film to make a great movie? Maybe, but it sadly did not happen in this film. And the reason why that happened is because each story, the way they're being told, they're so far and separate from each other that you lose sight of which one you like most. It doesn't feel like the same movie, and it doesn't make you like one equally as the other. So I, surprisingly, to my surprise, I felt more I was liking more the story about the mystery and the thriller because I really wanted to see like what secrets they were going to dig up and what mystery was going to be unfolded about what happened to Katie and the people that kidnapped her. Why did they kidnap her? Are we going to learn more about that story and the history or background of the things that they were doing in order to put her in that sarcophagus? However, there's a lot of questions that I had for that story that they were never truly answered. Even by the end of the film, there's still a lot of questions that you're like, wait a second, how did that happen? How did it get to here? Like, why? You never feel like you got the full story. And even the rules that they kind of set up for that part of the story, it didn't really make sense. There's a really good ending and it's not a twist ending, but it's one of those endings where it's satisfying because the good guys win in the end. And you're supposed to leave like, oh yeah, they got those bad guys. But you still leave with, wait, but that doesn't make sense because why didn't they do that over here? And then it would have been like, it just never answered the questions that I had. And then for the other part of the story, which is the Exorcist possession movie, I enjoyed it, but it felt like an Evil Dead film. And if you're Lee Cronin and you're already known for making an Evil Dead film, and now you're making a Mummy, you should not do something that is so similar to what you did in the previous film, which is supposed to not be connected at all to this movie. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't mind that he went very similar to Evil Dead. What I mind about it is that if you're calling your movie The Mummy, make it more mummy, make it more Egyptian, give us more lore, give us more like something that we can like take away as, oh, this feels like a mummy and not like Evil Dead and Deadites. Also, in that second part of the story, the Exorcist type possession film, they really went out with, we want to gross you out. We want you to throw up in the theater because they do some crazy stuff that you feel like, she's sick to your stomach. And I like that kind of stuff. As a horror fan, that's what I want to watch. But it did not make sense to have those moments in this film because it's supposed to be a mummy film and there's this whole mystery going on over here, but then the movie's going to be, resolved in a third act full of just bodily fluids and scorpions coming out of your throat and just things that make you cringe and feel just grossed out. Again, both stories were interesting, but when you put them together, they were not coming together to make a good film. And then the other issue that I have with the film is the pacing. My God, did the pacing in this film feel painful. It was slow. And again, I am thinking this is a Lee Cronin film. So I'm thinking Evil Dead Rise, that movie was really well paced from the beginning. It kind of got going, you know? In here, it took forever to get to any sequence that had energy and that you felt, oof, like alive in the theater and excited for what you were watching. It took a while, you know? The first the first and second half of the film are all the mystery, right? They're trying to give us all the clues and all the hints and build this story of what happened to Katie. However, the answers they were giving me were not enough. So we know she got kidnapped. We know that the people that kidnapped her had some connection to a tomb and a sarcophagus. We don't ever really know what was in that sarcophagus, who the person was. Was it a mummy? Was it like some Egyptian emperor or something important from Egypt or from the past? We don't know anything. And then later on in the film, they let us know that what is inside of that sarcophagus where they put Katie, and this might be a spoiler, so I'm sorry, but I just want to say it to have a good conversation, is that it's a demon that they are putting into different people's bodies to keep it captive, so it doesn't come out and basically wreak havoc around the world. And this demon is called the Nazarenian, or the destroyer of families. Okay, so it has nothing to do with the mummy. So again, and they never go deep into the lore of that demon. I wanted to know so much more. Where did it come from? You know, how many years, like what happened in Egypt with that demon, and what has kept it sealed all this time? And what is the story of the people that keep it captive? Because they made the people in this film who were doing the ritual to kidnap people and then put the demon in their bodies, they made them the villains. But are they really the villains? Because it seemed like they were doing God's work, because in order to keep this demon, you know, captive and controlled, they're doing something good for humanity, because if it comes out, it's going to do really bad stuff. So are they really the villains? Should they have given them more humanity and more like a story so that we could understand, oh, I understand why they're doing it. And maybe instead of seeing them as the villain, we should try to work together with them. There was so much that was not really being answered. And the pacing of it all was excruciatingly slow, because they were not giving me anything except very small things that you're like, I kind of already know this. Give me the answers. And at the same time, you're also watching the family, Katie's family, trying to understand what happened to her, and they're asking for answers. And as the audience, you're like, can you at least give them the little bit you've given me? Because we are ahead of them the entire film. We know what happened to Katie to some extent. We know what's coming, and they don't. But their entire story is trying to figure out what happened to her. But we already know. So that doesn't make sense. We need to be at the same place that the main characters are. So we are finding information together. So it becomes surprising and shocking. Instead, we're just watching like, oh, they finally got to where we are. Okay. But then the information that they got, it's nothing new or better than what we got. And again, the last thing that I really just was having issues with the film is, unfortunately, the story. Like I said before, it just did not give me any answers. The story was going nowhere. There's so much more that they could have explored. This demon, to be honest, I am very interested and curious to know more about the demon and how it came about. How did Egyptians find out about the demon? I would have loved to have seen like a scene that took place in the past, and they have to somehow fight off this demon, and how they, you know, trapped it and have kept it captive all these years. There's so much on the story that I was looking forward to know. and they never got there. And the only reason they never got there is because they were desperately trying to get to the ending where all of the exorcist possession, really disgusting, making you throw up stuff was going to happen, as if that's the place that they thought in their hands, the filmmakers, that we wanted to get to. And to be honest, I don't understand how Hollywood doesn't get this, but sure, we love those things. They're entertaining, they're fun, it's an experience. But what we want is good stories. So if you would have given me a great story that led somewhere and you were like, wow, that was great, I would have appreciated that more than the gimmick of trying to make me to throw up with disgusting stuff. And one last thing that I want to add that I did not like. My God, the performances from the main actors, the father and the mother, that was painful to watch too, especially the mom. Because number one, they were written not very smart. They're dumb characters that made dumb decisions. And whenever they had to react to some of the things that they were, as actors, they need to react to, you're like, huh? That's as far as you're going to go? Like, your daughter is sitting in front of you looking like the skeleton from Tales from the Crypt. And this is how you're reacting? I know it's the daughter, and as a mother and a father, you love your kids, but I'm sorry, if somebody brings that child into my home, I'm like, out, not here. Like, she looked disgusting. So there has to be some sort of realism when you make a film that the audience can feel like those main characters are smart and they're acting like the way we would act. Because I'm sorry, no person in their right mind would let that little girl who's vomiting bodily fluids and disgusting stuff constantly and like crawling in walls and doing all this weird stuff in their home. Like after 24 hours, I'm like, she is out. Take her out right now. So that's another thing that really bothered me. And the mom especially, my goodness. If there's one thing that I don't like in horror films, is whenever they give me a female character that is stupid and that is weak. Because in horror, women rule. Female characters are badass, they're tough, they make the right choice, they carry the entire film, and in the stories, the entire family. So when you have this film and this mother is so weak to take care of her other children because she's so focused on this decrepit, disgusting looking little girl, which I understand is your daughter, but you have to also have some sort of common sense. So I really did not appreciate and felt insulted by a movie that gave me a mother that was so dumb and weak as a character. She never did anything that I could say, you go girl. She kind of did it at the end, but still, the movie was so bad for 2 hours that last moment where she had her moment of revenge and like, oh yeah, you get him, girl, it did not work for me because I did not believe her. She didn't get me to that place where I was like, yeah, girl, I'm with you. Okay, so what did I like about the film? As you can tell, not very much, which is kind of sad because I was really hoping this movie will be really good, but there's not a lot to like here. However, the performances by all of the child actors really surprised me. They were all very good. So in the film, there's two kids in the beginning of the story, which are younger, and then we get more kids later on when those two are now older, and they throw in a third child actor or a third sibling into the story. So the actors that played Katie when she was younger, great job. She didn't get a lot of screen time, but she was really good. And then when she gets older, the actress that plays her, I believe her name is Natalie Grace, she was incredible. Her performance of how she brought the possessed Katie to life, like her physical performance and how she transformed herself and did different moves really worked well, especially when you paired her performance with the people that did all of the special effects or makeup artistry of how they brought her skin to life, like the disgusting skin and wrappings around her skin and all of the gross out things about her body, like the body horror elements of it. When you pair her performance with that, it was exquisite. I think that's the best takeaway from this film. From this film is her and the performance. But then the other actors, she has a sibling. I forgot his name now. I'm so sorry. But the little boy that played him in the beginning of the story, he was great. He kind of stole the scenes really quickly. And then later on, when he is older, it's another actor. He also did very good. He wasn't as good as the female child actors, the little girls, but he was much better than the mom and the dad. So I liked him too. And then the third sibling, when they have now a younger sister in the present part of the story, she also did great. And there's one scene where she's like removing all her teeth and acting like she's possessed, like this evil little girl, and you're like, that's really good. So that part of the film I did enjoy, and I actually would say, because the whole point of this review is to get you to either watch the film or not watch it. I would actually say go watch the film for the child actors. They were that good, and they do deserve to be seen on the big screen, because you don't normally get child actors and you can go, gosh, that kid really did the work. And these ones to me felt like they did. And then the other performance that I really enjoyed is the villain of the story. I don't believe we ever get her name, but she's the person that kidnapped Katie, and her name is the Magician. I thought she was very menacing and very evil. She kind of gave me the vibe of a Disney evil queen or something like that. She had that vibe. And I thought she did a great job with what little screen she got. And I actually wanted more out of her. I wanted to see her story. How did she become that person? Why is she doing the things that she's doing? She was so good that I wanted more out of that side of the film. And sadly, we never got it. Instead, we got an ending where she gets the short end of the stick. And if they ever make a sequel, which I highly doubt, maybe they'll bring her back in some way. But I really liked her. So that's my review of Lee Cronin's The Mummy. Sadly, I'm going to give it a low rating of a 2.5 out of 5. Do I recommend you go watch this in theaters or wait for it to stream? I would actually say go watch it in theaters. I'm a theater guy. I want to defend cinema. So the more money they make is always a good thing. And like I said, the little kids were so good that it would be nice if they got recognition for their work, even though the older actors or the rest of the film wasn't great. So again, this is a rating of a 2.5 out of 5, and go watch this in theaters because you actually might like it, even though I didn't. Please remember to hit that subscribe button and share this video with your friends and give it a thumbs up. It really helps my channel, and that's all that I want to do moving forward is get my channel to grow, and I cannot do that without your help. So please do me that favor, and also meet me down in the comments below. Let me know what you think of my review. Let me know what you think about the film. Did you see it? Did you not see it? Did you like it or not? Let's discuss.